Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in once again to Queen Ahmadiyyah TV presents Beyond the Realm. So I hope you're ready to get scared. Tonight, I'm going to be talking about the true story of the Amityville horror and how the family who lived there, the DeFeos, how they were plagued with all of these nefarious things. Okay, so let's get ready to delve into it. Let me get my banner up. Okay, so as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you haven't done so, be sure to click the notification bell and click the word all so that you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Don't forget that you can follow me on Instagram at QueenAShakur, on Instagram at divine_goddess_27, on Twitter at dgoddess27, Patreon at Queen Ahmadiyyah, and Brighton at Queen Ahmadiyyah. Okay, so let's get into it. Hello, Jeff, AV the Great, Queen Candy J, Hiram X, Jeff ATL, Howard is Black. Howard says, "Hell, Queen, I love you," and I love you right, Black, beloved. Okay, Silent D says, off day and ready to be in the chat. Also, I brought my sage and ready to burn it at the end. Okay, mine is burning right now. All right. Hello, True Justice. Ann T says, "I would say hi, but she never sees my comments." I'm sorry, beloved. Well, I see you now. So hello, peace, love, and blessings to you, Ann T. Okay, Designer Junkie, Melanated Brown, Jalen says, "I'm Black. Don't need a man, stop telling me I do," says hello. Monifa, grand evening to you, beloved. And JMT Flicks. Let's get into it, people. Now, I'm going to be showing you also an interview that was conducted with Ronald DeFeo, the person who slaughtered his entire family in that house. Okay, and he said that he heard voices that told him to do it. So let's talk about it. Inside the real Amityville horror house where murder and alleged hauntings took place in the 1970s. Now, the quaint-looking house at 112 Ocean Avenue was the scene of the grisly DeFeo murders before the Lutz family claimed to endure paranormal terror there that inspired the thriller movie, The Amityville Horror. In the early morning hours of November the 3rd, 1974, this Amityville house in Long Island, New York, became more than a mere suburban home. Instead, it became an infamous crime scene as Ronald DeFeo Jr. skulked the halls with a rifle and killed his parents and 4 of his siblings as they slept. Now, he later ominously claimed that there were voices in his head urging him to kill, and some believed that he was hearing evil spirits that resided within the house once listed at 112 Ocean Avenue. Now, despite the infamous 1974 killings, numerous families have since moved in and out of the suburban home, now listed under 108 Ocean Avenue, and the purportedly paranormal occurrences that happened here or there, spawning a slew of books and films. The Amityville horror has kept tourists flocking to the house ever since. Though DeFeo's grisly crimes were all too real, it is possible that he was really under the control, or is it possible that he was really under the control of evil spirits that inhabited the house? These eerie images taken inside and out over the decades will place you at the scene. So it looks like they have a photo gallery of the pictures. Let's see what we have here, people. Okay, yes, so I'm going to show you, I'm going to share my screen so I can show you these photos. Zakia says, "Is it real?" Well, it's supposed to be real. Many people that have lived there left shortly after, complaining about the house being haunted and things like that. Okay, so let's see what these pictures are all about. I'm going to zoom in so you all can hopefully see this a little better. Okay, this is the first of 28 photos. This is the house sitting off back here. I hope you all can see it. Here's a better view of it. A nice looking house, especially for the 70s, right? That's the rifle that he used to kill his family. You can see the police back there in the background going to examine the crime scene, bringing out one of the bodies. That was a very nice house. It always looked spooky to me when I was a kid because the two windows at the top always reminded me of eyes. And as you can see right here, these are the people who played in the movie. They played the Lutzes in the movie. James Brolin and Margot Kidder posing in front of the New Jersey home, in front of the New Jersey house, used the exteriors of the 1979 movie adaptation, The Amityville Horror. The house was sold in 2017 for $605,000 on Zillow. Visitors from around the world still travel to see the Long Island home for themselves to this very day. The Lutz family was the last to recount any paranormal experiences or occurrences, with numerous owners thereafter having nothing to report. And that's why some people said they didn't believe the Lutzes. They said they think that they were just making it all up because nothing strange happened to them when they were there. The Amityville house on a summer day looks like any other suburban home in the neighborhood. Views of the canal from the property's deck are rather pleasant, in contrast to what occurred inside the house. The home has been repaired several times across the decades. Ronald DeFeo Jr. purportedly heard voices in his head, and then the voices that he heard in the house urged him to kill his family members. Ronald DeFeo's defense attorney, William Weber, claimed that he and author Jay Anson fabricated the accounts in order to sell the book. That's what his defense attorney said. Okay, I was waiting for an ad to go off. It said 2 minutes, but anyway. The boathouse and the main house at 112 Ocean Avenue as seen on March 31st of 2005. So this was just a few years ago. The Lutz family claimed to have smelled foul odors and even seen eyes peering inside the house during their stay. A real estate photo of the Ocean Avenue property from 2005. This is a photo they took trying to sell the house. The canal was prominently featured in the original movie's remake in 2005, which starred Ryan Reynolds. I saw the remake and it was not as good as the first, in my opinion. A pleasant courtyard where homeowners can't forget the gruesome murders that occurred inside. The original book sold more than 6 million copies, while its movie adaptation was nominated for an Academy Award. Okay, so with that all being said, let's get into this. And I'm going to tell you all this. The rap group De La Soul is from Amityville. Really? I didn't know that. It's very interesting. Let me say this, people. Now, so the attorney for Ronald DeFeo, who said he heard voices and killed his family, his attorney said they made that up. They likely did. Because if you kill your whole family, what better way to try and get out of it by playing crazy? And we all know how the Hellman's crew loves to play crazy, right? The mental illness card. But with that all being said, here's the thing. The fact that he murdered his family in that house, wouldn't that be a good reason for it to then really be haunted? I'm just saying, when people are killed, if you study paranormal activities and ghost stories and things like that and study demonology, you'll find that when people are killed in a heinous manner and the soul and spirit is at unease, it can't rest, oftentimes there will be hauntings or paranormal activity occurring in the dwellings. So after he murdered his family, he literally slaughtered them in their sleep. So after he did this, maybe they started haunting the residents. Whether it was haunted prior to him doing that, I don't know. But I definitely think it was after. I'll even set up, go put cameras so you can see me live there before I cash out my $1 million. Okay. They lied to hide their nature, said Cole. That could be true. That could be true. But with the end of the day, what the Lutzes experienced, I think they actually saw that. And I'm going to tell you why I actually believe the Lutzes. Because as I told you all numerous of times, I have studied paranormal activity and I have also studied demonology. And one of the things that they said that was really interesting to me, the Lutzes, one of their children, or their daughter, said that she saw something that looked like a pig, right? And it was clearly a demon from the way she described it. But if you know anything about demons, there is a demon that shows itself and it actually looks like a pig. I've heard other people give interviews or tell stories where they said they saw something that looks like a pig. Now, for a small child to say that, I don't think she was lying. I think they absolutely saw demons in that house. And I think the reason that the demons were there is because of the gruesome, heinous manner in which the DeFeo family was slaughtered there. But so let's get into it. Now that we finished the photo gallery. Hold on just a moment, people. Computer's moving slow. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I'm sorry. Hold on. I clicked off of something. Let me go back to it. Hold on, people. Just bear with me. Here we go. And please, let's get the likes up. Please like and share the video. All right. So, now as we know, he killed his family. Ronald DeFeo Jr. killed his entire family in their sleep. Okay. Now, in this claim of him talking about he heard voices that encouraged him to do it, in this claim and the murders themselves, that spawned the notion that 112 Ocean Avenue was haunted and that the DeFeo family was, as a whole, they were victims of the house. However, a look at DeFeo Jr.'s life provides an alternative of the events. With an abusive father and a passive mother, the boy's troubled childhood led to substance abuse as an adult. He not only lashed out at his father, but once even threatened him with a gun. The parents hoped letting him live at home and with a weekly stipend, they hoped that would help. Okay, so you have an unruly, disrespectful child or young adults, and you want to let them live with you and give them money? That's not good. That's a recipe for disaster. First of all, you're teaching them to be irresponsible and making them feel entitled. The police back there, what the hell? I think that's what that says. Okay, so anyway, DeFeo Jr. barely held a job. I mean, why would he want to hold a job when your parents are paying for you to live for free? And then there's an interview they did with him, and I'm going to show you that in a moment. Now, on the day in question, DeFeo Jr. left work, went to a bar. He kept calling his home to no avail and complained to the patrons at the bar about it. He eventually left, only to return at 6:30 a.m. when he yelled, "You got to help me. I think my mother and father are shot." Now, authorities found all 6 members of the family dead in their beds, shot with a rifle at around 3:15 a.m. and positioned on their stomachs. There was no sign of struggle, nor that they were drugged. No local reports of gunshots were logged, with only the DeFeo dog barking away. Now, DeFeo Jr. changed his alibi several times. from claiming that he was at the bar during the time of the murders, to mob hitman Louis Fellini killing his family while forcing DeFeo Jr. to watch. He eventually confessed that he gunned his own family down, and he stood trial on October the 14th of 1975. Though attorney William Weber tried to enter an insanity plea, the prosecution argued DeFeo Jr. was a mere drug addict who was well aware of what he was doing that night. He was convicted on 6 counts of second-degree murder and sentenced to 6 concurrent sentences of 25 years to life. But it wasn't until after the Lutz family moved into the house in December of 1975 that the purported haunting of the Amityville horror allegedly set in place. George and Kathy Lutz believed their purchase of the 4,000 square foot house at $80,000 was a steal, but moved out 20 days after, saying that terrifying events allegedly forced them to flee. From green slime purportedly oozing from the walls and eyes peering into the house from outside to foul odors, and Kathy allegedly levitated in her bed. It was a rather disquieting month. George claimed that he woke up at 3:15 each night. I want you to pay attention. Why is 3:15 significance? Because didn't they just say that Ronald DeFeo killed his family at 3:15? Let me go back and see. I could have sworn I saw 3:15 on here. Hold on as I scroll through here, people, because that's clearly more than a coincidence. Yeah, it said authorities found all 6 family members dead in their beds, shot with a rifle at around 3:15 a.m. Okay? And then George Lutz claimed that he would wake up every morning at 3:15 a.m., the exact time of the death of the DeFeo family members. That's also 3 a.m. is also known to be the witching hour. That's usually when demons start paranormal activities too. So that all adds up as far as I'm concerned. Now, Jay Anson's, the 1977 book, The Amityville Horror, was based on these reported events and served as the foundation for the 1974 film of the same name, which was remade again in 2005. Now, the book became a bestseller, while the film grew into a classic, and legends of horror aficionados flocked to town. Anson's book used 45 hours of the family's recorded interviews as a basis, and one of the 3 Lutz children, Christopher Quarantino, confirmed that the hauntings happened. However, he also said that the events were exaggerated by his stepfather, George Lutz. He said they did happen, but his father exaggerated them. Now, George Lutz was curious about paranormal activity and actively tried to summon spirits, but had a financial motivation to sell his house, to me, due to the family's severe debts. And Weber, DeFeo Jr.'s attorney, said the haunting was all a hoax, which he purportedly conjured up with Anson while they were drinking. So the story that his client said, he said they made that all up. Now, ultimately, the house remains just that, a house. It has changed hands for decades and different events, during different events. So at present, the Dutch colonial house is nothing to scoff at, with 5 bedrooms, 3.5 bathrooms, and a boathouse on the canal off the Long Island Sound. The house is rather substantial. Despite its appeal, after the Lutz family moved out, it went into foreclosure in 1977. It was next owned by James and Barbara Cromartie, the owners of Riverhead Raceway. The Cromarties changed the Amityville Horror House address from 112 Ocean Avenue to 108, hoping to stave off stalkers and retain its fluctuating value. After an uneventful decade living within its walls, they too sold the house to Peter and Jean O'Neill in 1987. The O'Neills sold the house in 1997 for $310 to Brian Wilson. Most recently, the house sold for $605,000 in 2017. As for the New Jersey home used for the Amityville movie, for the film's exterior shots. It was put on the market in 2011 for $1.45 million, then dropped to $1.35 million. Okay, so I'm going to show you some of this. Hold on, before I get into that, I'll show you that in just a moment. But let me continue on with the story. Okay. Now, the Lutz family experienced supernormal activity. Stepfather George Lutz had a history of dabbling with the occult, and the family claimed to smell strange odors and see green slime oozing out of the walls and even the keyholes, and experience cold spots in certain areas of the house. The Lutz, when a priest came to bless the home, he allegedly heard a voice scream and tell him to get out. This is what a priest said. He told the Lutzes to never sleep in that particular room of the house. Other paranormal activity was a nearby garage door would open and close, and an invisible spirit knocking a knife down in the kitchen also occurred. And then there was a pig-like creature with red eyes staring down at George and his son Daniel from a window in a room. George waking up his wife Kathy and several times, and she was levitating off of her bed. Sons Daniel and Christopher also levitated off of their beds at times. Now that's clearly some demonic stuff. Now, after selling the house, or their story, George and Kathy took a lie detector test to prove that they were telling the truth, because many people were skeptical, saying, oh, they're just making this up. They're just trying to get money. We don't believe the house is haunted. They took the lie detector test and they passed. The couple was bogged down in legal and financial issues, which prompted skeptics to believe that they were just lying and trying to get a motive to sell the house, to create a fantastical story to sell it to the public. But they passed those lie detector tests. Now, the Lutz's former attorney, William Weber, who fell out with them over money issues, came out in 1979 claiming that the three of them embellished the story. Not saying that they lied, but just saying they embellished it, which means you added and made things more dramatic than they in fact were, apparently. Now, son Daniel, who lives a quiet life in Queens, New York, as a stonemason, claims that the house ruined his life and that he continues to have nightmares to this very day. Murderer Ron DeFeo, who still lives, who's still alive and serving a 625-year life sentence in a New York correctional facility, claimed that he heard voices urging him to kill his family. He has since changed his story multiple times, though. So I want to know what you all think. Do you all think that the house is haunted? Nice landscape house, just too dank outdated. Yes, it absolutely is. But do you all think that the house is haunted, or you think it was all just a trick? That movie was scary, yes. It scared me back in the day, too. Okay? So anyway, I'm waiting on you all to put in the chats. My internet's slow. Okay, slow as a darn turtle. So now, who in here thinks that the house was really haunted? Put a 1 in the chat if you think it was really haunted, and put a 2 if you think that they were just saying things. Yeah, I think it was haunted. And like I said, I don't know if it was haunted when he killed his family, but I do think it was definitely haunted after he killed them, by their ghosts, no less. And so here's another article on it. It says, history does not record what a bunch of Long Island newspaper reporters thought they would hear on February the 13th of 1976, as they were hustled into a modest book-lined attorney's office in the village of Patchogue in New York. In that room that morning, the press would be introduced for the first time, but certainly not the last, to George and Kathleen Lutz, two newlyweds of intermediate employment who had suddenly, very suddenly, left their dream house in Amityville the month before. Rumors have been floating through the sleepy area on the south shore of Long Island that the Lutzes had left because the house was haunted. George and Kathy Lutz, in their mid-30s at the time, looked like a normal couple, at least normal for the 1970s. They had lots of pin-straight, long, dark hair, and George had lots of pin-straight, dark hair and a beard. His wife, Kathy, had a blonde feathered haircut that framed a round, sweet face. In the press conference, George did most of the talking. He took the tone of someone who had been forced, reluctantly and after long consideration, to come forward with his story, like he didn't really want to tell it. Now, he said he didn't want to get into details, but yes, he said, a very strong force had driven his family from the home. He wanted to correct some of the facts that had been spewed. He said, no, his family had not seen any human shapes and flying objects in the house. No, they had not heard wailing sounds and seen moving couches. But yes, they had left the house after only owning it for a month with just 3 changes of clothing. Just 3 changes of clothing, people, because of our concern for our own personal safety, he said. And that was about all he was willing to share for the president at that time. Now, the reporters tried to press Lutz for more details, but he would not be specific. And as the Newsday writer reported with evident frustration, they were quite upset because he wouldn't give them more information. Lutz did say that he would not spend another night in that house if he was asked to. Now, but he also said he was not planning to sell the house right then. Within a day of the press conference, the lawn of the house, a Dutch colonial perched on a waterway at 112 Ocean Avenue, was full of people who had decided to come visit and investigate the matter for themselves. Now, they came mostly from neighboring towns in Long Island. They parked along the street. Some were accompanied by their children. One person said, "I'm interested in unexplained phenomena." This is what a father who'd brought a 12-year-old son with him said. He said, "I was here the other night with my other son, and we watched the electric meter for a while, and I swear it slowed down." Of course, it could have been the refrigerator. That's what he says. Now, one would like to believe that the journalists have enough common sense not to believe in ghosts, right? But in the 70s, American culture was awash in superstition. It was a time rather like our own, filled with economic and political instability. It was a time where the Lutz family's press conference took place 18 months after Watergate had forced Richard Nixon to resign from the presidency, and the onslaught of upsetting news had led everyone to question conventional facts and truth. It was unclear whether the stable laws of the universe still held true. Anger and fear were everywhere. Sounds like how we're living in now, right? And often enough, they bloomed into outright delusions. Now, couple that with remnants of the New Age philosophies of the 60s, shake it a little bit, and then you get American folklore, and you have something like what the Lutz's story would eventually turn out to be. The Amityville Horror, a story that would inspire several books and more than half a dozen films spanning from 1979, the original blockbuster starring James Brolin and Margot Kidder. Okay, so then they go on to talk about the book. I'm not going to read all of this. And so here's what they say. Okay, they said that the father sees a window with a pig with red glowing eyes. Cold spots appear mysteriously in the house. There was a room full of flies that tormented the family. Eventually, the family had enough and they fled. So they also go on to talk about Ronald DeFeo, how he killed the 6 members of his family, his mother, Louise, father, Ronald Sr., 2 daughters, and 2 sons. They were all shot to death in their beds. They're in their home on 112 Ocean Avenue. Now, a third son, age 23-year-old Ronald Butch DeFeo Jr., initially told the police that he'd innocently discovered the bodies in a locked room in the house at 6 p.m. later that day. As Butch DeFeo told the story that day, when he saw the bodies, he fled the house to a bar. This is what he told the police. When he saw the bodies, he fled the house to a bar down the street, arriving there in a state of hysteria. As one man lingered at the bar told reporters this. Now, he took the men back to the house, and the police were called. Now, first of all, how does that even make sense? That clearly sounds like some BS he made up, right? You went home, found your family dead. Instead of calling the police, you run to a bar and tell everybody there about it, and then you take them back. That all sounds clearly crazy. So here's what they say. This is the conclusion, people. They say instead of spirits, the Cromarties complained that they were haunted by what could only be called paranormal activity. Okay, saying that things would knock on the door late at night. That's what they said, the people who came after them. So, like I said, it's up to a matter of interpretation. Some people say the Lutzes made it all up because they just wanted to basically get out of paying the bills for the house, or because they were having financial issues. I don't know if that would be a good motive to move out of a house that you only had for a month. Here's the question, though. If they lived in the house for a month and they couldn't afford the house, we have to ask ourselves, in a month, it was less than a month, right? So the mortgage wasn't even due. Went to have a drink. He could not believe it. That could be true, right? So with that all being said, if the Lutzes left out the house because they couldn't pay the mortgage and they were having financial difficulties, why would they leave in 28 days? Because first of all, it takes a while for people to foreclose on your house. And for two, if you've only been there for 28 days, the mortgage isn't even due for the first mortgage isn't even due yet, right? So that's just all crazy. I don't think that's why they fled. I think, and especially, here's the thing, people, even if you were going to flee the house because of bills and finances, would you leave all of your personal belongings? Like, wouldn't you want to take those things with you? So that just doesn't make any sense to me. But I'm going to show you all this interview that Ronald DeFeo did. I haven't seen this, but it's on here. So I'm going to share the screen and show that to you all.
I wouldn't want to face the parole board, but most importantly, I wouldn't want to face myself every morning in the mirror. I wouldn't want to face myself in the mirror. I might be able to explain to myself why I killed my father. I might be able to explain to myself why I killed my mother. I might be able to explain to myself why in a struggle I killed my older sister, Dawn, but how? How do I ever explain to myself or come to make myself live with the fact that I killed 3 defenseless children?
First of all, you're wrong when you're saying about defenseless, because everybody in that house was defenseless. Only one person had access to a handgun, between my mother and father. He never got a chance to get it. She did. So everybody else was defenseless. As far as I'm concerned, really everybody was defenseless. Because I got to them before they got to me.
Right.
Well, he's still in prison to this day. It was so, hold on, let me say this. It was so much evil in that house that everything in the house was evil. I think I would have left everything there too, Queen. Absolutely. And that's why, I forgot who Brother Sly said, how did they get approved for the house if they couldn't afford it after a month? Absolutely. Because when you buy a house, they check your bank statements. They check your credit. They want to know how much money you have in your account. If you're able, you got to show check stubs, W-2s, and all of that. So they're going to make sure that you can pay for this house in future months. So they absolutely wouldn't approve you for it if you don't even have enough to make the first payments. So that sounds crazy. So I clearly don't think that's why they left that house. And like I said, if they were going to flee the house because they were trying to avoid paying the mortgage or whatever, why would they leave all of their personal belongings? It literally said they took 3 changes of clothing. 3 changes of clothing? Now, they must have left out of there in quick, fast, and a hurry. And you, in my opinion, will only leave somewhere in that rate of speed if you are frightened. Okay? That's what makes sense to me. So I absolutely think, and I'm going to tell you something else too. When they say that the son, Ronald DeFeo Jr., who killed his family, when they say that, you know, he said he heard voices, and then they said, well, they just made it up or whatever. Now, here's the thing. They say he was a drug addict. Remember, they said he was a drug addict and he drank all the time, right? And what did I tell you all before? I told you that demons can only oppress you and start harassing you when you give them the contract, the right to do so. Because we have dominion over them. So when you are engaging in nefarious activities, when you are like, you know, addicted to porn, addicted to drugs and alcohol and things like that, when you have any type of addiction, right? Especially doing things like drugs and alcohol, you open up portals for them to come in and start harassing you. So maybe he embellished the story, but those demons absolutely could have been influencing his behavior and his thinking. I'm not saying he was possessed by demons. I don't think that. But they could have been oppressing him and making him think these things. Because here's the thing, people. When demons are influencing you, you don't know you're being influenced by demons. You think these are your thoughts. Remember when you were a kid and they had the little cartoons and they'd have an angel on one side on your shoulder and the devil on the other, and the angel's telling you to do something good, the devil's on the side telling you to do something bad? That's how demons operate. They're whispering in your ear. Now, you don't hear an audible voice, but it comes to you as a thought. Telepathically, that's a thought. So when you're under influence of demonic beings and entities, you're thinking these are your thoughts telling you to kill. They're going to kill you, so you might as well kill them first. These are demons putting these thoughts in your head. That is one of the first stages of possession, like I told you. Oppression, infestation, and then full-on possession. And the oppression is when they start to influence your thinking. And especially they're able to do this quite easily when you're under the influence of drugs and alcohol. Because when you're under the influence of drugs and alcohol, you're not thinking in your right frame of mind. And that's how they can get in. So that's something to keep in mind. So he could have absolutely been influenced by those demons. Though it was his own hands that carried out the act, those demons could have led him to do so. Okay? And they're really good at doing that to weak-minded people. And when you're on drugs and alcohol, you are at a weakened state because you're at a lower vibrational frequency. And people who operate on low vibrations of frequency, it's very easy for demons, nefarious, malevolent beings, to persuade and influence you to do things. That's why I always say raise your levels of vibration, raise your stages of consciousness. Then you can soar high. But when you're down there in the gutter, that's when they can come and get you. And another thing that made me think that this is all true, because they said they experienced cold spots in the house. They said that they saw the thing with the eyes like the red glowing eyes that look like a pig. And I told you, there is a demon. You can do this research yourself. Look up types of demons and type in demons that look like pigs. There is a demon that looks like a pig. I've heard other people say they have seen it, and I've researched it. So why would the child say that if the child had not seen it? Because the father said it too, George Lutz, but the little boy said it too. So also, not only that, it was a little boy or a girl, but one of the kids said that too. But also, not only that, they talked about the flies. Yes, the flies will be in a place that's haunted because flies are attracted to filth. And they said they felt foul odors. So I told you before, when demons are in the presence of you, you may smell, especially if you're an intuitive person, you may smell a very pungent, loud smell that'll smell like feces, dirty mop water, sulfur, rotten eggs, all types of smelly things compiled together. And when you smell that and you don't have any reason for that smell, like if you look through the house and you can't find the source of that smell, it's usually a demon. I went to somebody's house one time, and this was years ago, and I smelled this foul, pungent smell all of a sudden. Not when I first walked in, not while I was just sitting there or whatever. All of a sudden, I went into a certain room in that house, and I smelled it. And so the first thing I thought was maybe somebody didn't flush the toilet. So I went in the bathroom to go flush it, and there was nothing in the toilet. So then I thought, well, maybe it's another toilet in here. And I went and looked around the house, and there was nothing there. And then I told the owner, I said, come here, you need to smell this. Do you smell that? And you know what they said to me, much to my surprise? The first thing out of their mouth is they said, oh, yeah, that's a demon. No, they didn't call it a demon. I'm sorry. They said, oh, yeah, that's an unclean spirit. Now, they said it matter-of-factly, like they weren't bothered. They said, they sniffed, and they said, oh, yeah, that's an unclean spirit. And they just walked out of the room. And I'm thinking, say what now? You know that's a whole unclean spirit, and you're just going to walk out of the room like it's okay? Are you used to this? That's what I knew. Get your shite, and get out. Like Angela Bassett said on Waiting to Exhale, okay? I was out of there in a flash, no less. Went home and smudged myself for 3 days straight. Police. Say what now? They just cavalierly told me, oh, yeah, that's an unclean spirit. So you're not going to get the Bible out and try to read the 23rd Psalm, or maybe the 91st Psalm, or try to burn some sage? You're not going to try to do anything about it? Just going to go sit down on the couch and continue watching TV like it's all gravy? Oh, yeah. I'll see you later. Gotta go. Like that little SpongeBob thing. I'm going to be out. Okay? Police. Look at Cole. Absolutely, Cole. Okay? Please. I was out of there so quick. Ain't got to go home, but got to get the hell out of here, says Stephanie. Right. JMT says, I would have been on the next train out of town. Killer says, yep, I always say that when hubby's driving me. Just be playing though. When I was a child, my sister told our mother that she saw a man face in the window of our living room. Also, when I did my hair in the bathroom, I saw a larger dark figure walk through my bedroom door. Oh, when was this? Was this recently? Let me tell you something, honey. If this was recently, go get you some sage. I once had raccoons living in the attic. I was scared out of my wits. I bet you were, Hopper, because especially when you heard them scurrying across that darn floor. But let me tell you something. I'll tell you something even scarier than that, Hopper. I was living in the house, and I heard some scurrying across the attic floor, and I thought it was either rats or raccoons. So I had the exterminator come and climb up there and check. And you know what they told me, much to my disdain? There's no rats and raccoons up here. And I said, well, what is it? Ma'am, there's nothing up here. I said, are you sure? I said, go check again. He said, ma'am, I've checked thoroughly. There's nothing living up here. He said, if there had been any type of animals, I'd see some type of crumbs or some type of droppings. It's completely clean. There's nothing up here. I said, what is that scurrying that I keep hearing late at night, scurrying across the attic floor? And mind you, that's the same house where I told you all I woke up and the back door was open for no reason. And I saw that face, that demonic face on the TV when I woke up one night. That's the same house. And as you can see, that's why I'm no longer there. Okay? Police. Get your sage from Necessities Company. Queen, we need some real stories. Queen, we need some real stories, huh? This was in the year of 1993. Oh, okay. 1993. Okay. So that was a while ago. I would have been 0 toes to the floor. Would have been flying out that bitch. Okay, Karma Cox, gone with a quickness. Oh my goodness gracious. Y'all are so funny. Auntie says, no, ma'am, I'd never go into the attic. Nope, not today. Okay, this happened in the year of 1990 in Manhattan. The 100% Rotten podcast says, say what now? Y'all are too much. I'm going to conclude this broadcast. I would like to thank you all for tuning in once again to Authentic Black, I'm not Authentic Black Goddess, I'm on the wrong channel, I'm sorry, to Queen Ahmadiyyah TV presents Beyond the Realm. I hope you all enjoyed this show. And so make sure that you like and share this video. Also, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. And don't forget to tune in tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on Authentic Black Goddess TV for your morning wake-up call. With that all being said, thank you all so much. I remember when my grandmother told me she was a girl. When she was a girl, she heard a weird voice in my parents' room. She said she ran and they came back with a bunch of people and searched the house and no one was there. That sounds like some stories my grandmother told me, but I'm going to tell y'all something, people. When I come on here tomorrow night, now that you brought that up, Stephanie Dews, when I come on here tomorrow, I'm just going to tell you all a bunch of scary stories told to me by the elders in my family. And these are all true, honey, and they are scary. So we're going to talk about that. My father and my grandmother told me one of those stories. And you know how I knew it was true, even as a kid? Because my grandmother told me the story first. And then later on, my father told me the exact same story. It happened when my dad was 13. And he still tells the story to this day as if it was yesterday, honey. He still remembers it so well. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow on this channel, okay, at 8 p.m. So with that all being said, I wish you all love, peace, and prosperity. Vibrate on high frequencies. Always remember to keep the Most High first in your life. And until next time, I will talk to you all again soon.